I was doing perfectly fine on my own. I don't need anybody. But it's nice to have somebody that wants you, you know?
This is Dave.
This is Reese.
And this is Manic Joy, a podcast about
Life.
Love and
uncertainty.
Hello, friends. It's episode 2
Ow.
of Manic Joy. Today's episode is the love episode, and how apropos, considering Valentine's Day was this past weekend.
Excuse me, it's Valentine's Day.
Oh, that's right. I often forget that
with an M.
because I'm just too caught up in the whole air of love.
Ew.
We managed to get a night alone on actual Valentine's Day.
Yep.
Which was nice. We didn't really do much. I think we were in bed early. Cradling each other as we snowed the night away. It was a beautiful, romantic evening.
I was totally okay with that.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. I loved it too. Saturday, we spent the day looking at some cars and managed to snag a beauty. It was something we were both working towards and saving our money. And have to say, for all of you listening out there, very exciting to say, here's some money cash to buy this new car and kind of shut down the whole financing discussion and all of that. So
yeah, that was really great. Watching
fun.
Dave shut down the car salesman on the, well, let's see how you do with your
credit score.
Your credit scores. And Dave's all, oh, well, that's okay because we're paying cash. Bazinga.
So very cool. That's one of those things maybe we'll talk about in another episode that we've been, working towards to be able to do things like that, which have been fantastic. Let's see, Saturday night after we got our car, we were out with some friends to go for dinner out in our favorite little town, Concord, Massachusetts. Had a fantastic dinner. I had been there once before.
It was delicious.
For drinks, but I saw the food coming out and I was like, oh, we should go try this place. And yeah, it did not disappoint.
No, everything was outrageous. It was so good.
Really good. What I loved about it, it was one of those places that had the right size portions for you to eat. You ate, and I left there feeling fantastic.
I actually brought food home.
Yeah. It was really good, really fun time. And let's see, what else did we do? We did this past weekend. We spent some time getting together the gifts for our email subscribers. Yep. That was really fun. We have those ready to go. So if you're listening, you should have those hopefully by the end of this week, early next week, depending on when we can get to the post office to drop those off. Thank you to our email subscribers once again. If you'd like to get a gift, become an email subscriber and you'll have the opportunity to do that. So we love our email subscribers. So thank you. So this episode, love. We were talking through this a little bit. That's what we did actually Friday night. We had some time. We were laying around in bed and we had some time to kind of talk through this a little bit. And this episode is extremely exciting to me. Love is one of those topics. It's the things that songs are written about. It's the thing of poetry. It's all of that. And being a creative person, lots of things aside from turmoil and those things in your life or those challenging moments in your life really did a lot to inspire those things, and I think is really interesting. And we watched, which we'll be sharing to you, you can find on our Manic Joy Podcast YouTube channel. We're going to be uploading some videos that we have from our Behind the Elopement special there. And also, it's going to be fun things there. And then we have a very special interview / whatever you want to call it, directed by our good friend George Nicolaitis, who directed you in Dave and Maurice at the beginning type of monologue here. Very, what do we call it? Reality bites?
Reality bites, very 90s, angsty.
Yeah.
Wearing a hat with pigtails and my Brooklyn accent.
You can watch that in full. Actually open this episode. And through that whole process, what was really amazing is as we were watching these on Friday night, it was to me just great to see just all of these people, these amazing people that we have in our lives. That, we talk about, there's the romantic love, and then there's family love, and then there's that friendship love. And it really kind of took us back, and being in Massachusetts now and not being around because we got engaged when we were in New York. And that's where our story kind of starts. like not to be around those people all the time now. It just makes you go back to like, oh, remember those fun times we used to have, not only just you and I, but just with our friends in general. Just really cool. I mean, how did that make you feel kind of looking back at that stuff?
Well, I think we were very lucky to have the friends that we had when we were in New York. We were a very close group, and now everybody's got married, has a family, moved here and there. But at the time, we pretty much all lived together too. We were all in the same apartment complex-ish, and we were with each other all the time. And they were there for a very important part of our lives. And actually, it was because of them that you and I got together too. Yeah. Which, but that's a great thing about love. Part of love is friends, and I love all my friends, even the ones that I don't get to see all the time, but they're the reason why things come together. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel sad that we don't get to see them all the time, but I just love those memories that we had with them. That was a fun time. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll get into it today. But as we were kind of talking about in episode 1, this idea, or I was talking about this idea of like things happen for a reason, and what's supposed to happen happens. And I think it's the same with the people that you have in your life, whether that's good or bad. It teaches you something and hopefully challenges you as a person and makes you a better person. And the people that come in they come in because they serve a specific purpose at a time when you need that thing to happen.
Exactly.
Let's kind of set this up before we get into our scripted questions. But one of the questions for you, like, what do you think shaped your relationships through the years and, eventually leading to ours? But was there anything that in your life, or was there anything that you had to emulate? Like, what was that for you?
I would say sustainability.
What does that mean?
It means, so the first relationship I had when I was 13 didn't really last very long, and it made me sad when it was over. And then every relationship after that, there was always an expiration date. Like I knew there would be an expiration date, so that would always make me kind of sad. And then as I got older, I kind of remembered what some of those things were that led to the mistakes in other relationships. And then eventually, when I realized that at some point I wanted to get married, who I would marry, it had to have sustainability. There had to be more to it than past relationships had. Because I'll get into it. We have a question, and I wrote something very specific down for one of those things that one of my main problems in my dating life, which caused to a lot of those expiration dates. So I'll get into that. I don't know how to answer that question right now.
Well, so I guess for me, when I'm looking back, I mean, I guess it all rolls up to this. You think about the relationships that you're having as you're growing up and being a child. And of course, my mother is also going to play a big role in any of this, and my relationship to her. And again, as I unpack it more and we start thinking about it, this is going to turn into a therapy session. I think it's it's actually been quite interesting and a relief to kind of talk about some of this stuff, which is interesting.
It's cathartic. It's important to talk about these things and not suppress them.
And so that plays a big role. And another group of people that I didn't talk about when we were talking about just the things that help kind of shape the people that we were in our lives, that another important role that I think also influenced the relationships that I have with women, my grandmothers. Yeah. And I was blessed enough to have just 2 really amazing grandmothers, both on my father's side and my mother's side, Evelyn and Alice. Alice, you never got to meet. I really wish you could have. And I think as I do things and we achieve things and the girls and all these life moments, I always kind of think in the back of my head, I really wish my grandmother was around to see this. Trying not to get upset right now, or emotional, not upset, because it's not a bad thing at all. And Evelyn, who you were fortunate enough to meet, Memer, what an amazing woman who just made me, I think, helped me learn to just respect people in general, but particularly like those relationships that I could be part of with someone, and I think that helped shape how I approach a relationship and growing up learning.
She had the never give up attitude. She had, what was the disease she had?
She had a scleroderma was one thing where she had lost all of the stuff.
Both of her legs
diabetes,
beneath her
I think.
knees, and so even in a wheelchair, one time we were all out, and she let me sit on her lap in the wheelchair while the girls, who were very little, wheeled us around, and she would laugh and laugh. There was never like a moment where you could see her giving up on anything. Yeah. I definitely appreciated that.
Just one
her.
of the
so
most.
you were lucky to have that in your life. I agree.
And so, especially growing up, again, my parents were divorced early. Growing up and just having her, I was the first grandchild, and so there was a lot of attention to me from both of their parts. You know, I grew up playing Scrabble with my grandmother on my mother's side, Alice. That was just one of those things I really just enjoyed. I remember just laying on the couch with her and watching TV and watching like Carol Burnett and Dick Van Dyke. All of those things was really amazing. And then, as you mentioned, Meme, Evelyn, just an amazing woman, always had this positive attitude. She was the one, my grandparents, they were the ones who did Christmas Eve every year, and no matter where I was always made sure that I was back for Christmas Eve because I didn't want to miss being around that.
And I remember that was one of the first times I actually got mad at you because you were like, well, I have to go back home. And when we were first dating, and I was like, ugh, whatever. And then when I finally got to go visit with you, I was like, oh, I understand why you go home. This is amazing.
And so I think it means a lot too that, you know, we've taken over that holiday, and that's the one where we bring everybody together, and just an amazing thing. So I think that had a big impact on, or help shape how I kind of go through relationships. And I guess to that I'll throw back to you, Reese, like going into a relationship, I mean, was there any philosophy that you kind of went into relationships with or started to have? I mean, obviously, maybe not those early relationships, but as you start to figure it out a little bit, if we ever figure it out, was there anything that you went in?
You don't figure it out because you don't... Everything changes and evolves, and the way my grandparents stayed together through things were very different than what my parents stayed together through things, and I watched them... A lot of the way, when I mentioned sustainability, I see like, you know, my parents did not get divorced. They were like the power couple. They knew how to balance each other out. And that was one thing I guess I was looking for too, is I had to find someone to balance me out. And I think that it took me a long time to understand that's what I needed more than anything else. But I don't know. I'm really like... I feel like I'm going to go ahead on other questions if I answer some of these things now. So that's why. Right. And I feel like you're on a roll with the things that you're saying. It sounds way more intelligent. I'm like,
as I mentioned, this episode got me really excited. And one of the things I think that I would always take into a relationship or going into that is like, I obviously coming from a situation where I was seeing fighting all the time and all that, like I knew that was something that I didn't want. I never really understood, you know, there'd always be that couple that they were fighting all the time, and it was always this drama, and it was always this thing, and I was like, well, why the hell are you guys together? Like, enough. Right. But again, as I think we're all searching for something in our relationships, and that's filling a hole for somebody, so who am I to judge? But I was always looking at relationships as something that they were trials. Right? Like, is this somebody you're going to be compatible with? Like, I never went into them thinking or ending really with I hate this person sucks now. I'm not going to deal with them anymore. You know what I mean? It was always like, hey, I like you. Let's see if we can be together, and whatever that is. And then if we decide it's not it, or if it gets decided it's not it, like that's what's supposed to be.
No, I hated all of my ex-boyfriends. Every single one of you.
Damn you
suck.
all.
No, I'm just kidding. Kind of.
One last question I'll have for you before we get into the specific questions that we talked about to set this up. Were there any ways that your past relationships or even your current relationship that like inspired you to do anything? I guess I asked that as like a creative person. I mean, was there anything you got from that allowed you to create?
Oh, absolutely. I'm one of the things that I know for sure that I was meant to do was to be involved in theater, because I'm a creative person, and the way that I would exercise the demons of things that went on in relationships was to use that as character work. I do a lot of character work and building up bios for characters, and I usually use my past experiences to help emote things that I need. And so a lot of past friendships, love relationships, I definitely would use that as a source for inspiration when either I'm performing in a show, directing a show, choosing a show. And then as a director now, I just really try to go for the comedy because I need to laugh. But like prior to that, used to be a lot of like experimental, deep, heavy, morose. I had a couple of my friends used to call me Morosa. Thanks to Ralphie and Precious used to call me Morosa because I used to get myself very upset with things around me. And I find that my life goes in these evolutions and these, you know, how every 8 years things change. I just kind of ride that wave of whatever's going on in the moment. I go back and I use some stuff, and then when I'm done with it, I let it go. You know what I mean? Like I don't harp on this relationship or that relationship, and I use whatever I need. Cathartic experience, I feel it, I let it go, and I move on. And I think that's been really helpful in not getting too wound up in the minutia of things in the past. Yeah. Because you have to be here and now. Yeah. Because life is too short for that type of nonsense, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah.
For me, absolutely using those things in performance situations, pulling from that to create a particular feeling for somebody or to get a point across on stage, for sure. The other area for me is, you know, as I got more into music, you know, I was writing, and I consider music and lyrics, that's poetry to me. I'm a big lyrics person, and I think that's important. So, you know, inspiring, and I think you'll hear through here, I have like some choice kind of selections of things that I'm like, oh yeah, that was really encapsulated what that relationship was or what I got from that relationship. And the other was, just the songs in it themselves and pulling that together. So really interesting. So with that, let's get to our first question. And our first question was, what were your best relationships, or what was your best relationship? So let's start with you, Reese.
So relationship, again, because I have to keep asking you this. Do you mean romantic or friendship, or
I think love, whatever that means to you?
I mean, I'd have to say it's this one. You know what I mean? Like, this is the one I've worked the hardest at keeping. This is the one that all those past relationships helped me realize what I want now. And this is the one that taught me to definitely be a better communicator, because I think my biggest issue, which is again genetic, to get mad because I thought that someone didn't understand what I wanted. When I realized that people aren't mind readers, they don't know. And men and women have very different brains. And so I would expect people to know right away what I wanted. And then when they wouldn't give that to me, I would get pissed off and harbor ill will. And then I'd be like, well, you know, how could you not know why I'm mad? Well, duh. You know, so I would say like this one is probably my best relationship so far, because we're still going. Yeah. And you knew what I was about from the beginning, and vice versa. Yeah. And we just, those little things that kind of peep out intermittently throughout the years that we've been together, we've worked on.
So I don't want to go too deep into our relationships, because we've got a whole section to talk about our story.
Yep.
Would you say that there is a relationship prior to ours that was what you considered a good relationship that you took something from?
I don't say there was like one particular one. I think each one that I was in really taught me what I don't want, which is why I'm not in them anymore. I mean, there were lots of qualities that I remember. Well, this made me happy, this made me happy. But for the most part, there were a lot of things that were involved that I was like, I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I'm not happy. Yeah. So I can't say that there's one before this one that I can say that was... Each one had their own little thing. Right. That's the best I can do. Right. Do with that one. Sorry.
Cool. For me, I guess my first high school girlfriend, that was I think a special thing. And I hope for the girls, whatever that happens is a special thing. But like, that was like the first real like, whoa, these are all of these feelings. And I remember when we actually started dating, and it was like official, like, this is my girlfriend and we're boyfriend and girlfriend, and walking through high school. And I don't know if anybody else has ever gone through this, but you know, when you like, oh yeah, I'm so focused on this person, and like you're walking around and you you don't spend every waking moment together yet. Like the relationship is still new. And I remember like walking around the halls of the school and you can see somebody and you're like, wait, is that her? That could be her. Like, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but.
No, because I went to an all-girl high school.
So you did not know. Right, okay.
If any of my boyfriends were there, that wouldn't be.
That would be weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there'd be times I'm like, oh, no, that's not her. Like, and so you're just looking for that person everywhere. And I remember this was the first relationship that was like, oh my God, yes, like I am in love. And I remember writing a letter confessing my love to her and giving that to her. And that was writing letters, right?
Remember
like, can you imagine doing that?
Yeesh.
And I remember, I mean, this had to have been at least a 3-page. And you know who you are if you're out there listening. Maybe you still have this letter. It'd be amazing to see that, because I'm big on, like, I don't keep things.
Oh, Dave throws everything out.
I really do. And I don't know. I just don't like to have stuff. Like sometimes I'm like, I wish I could go back. But for me, I'm like, this has served its purpose. Now I always want to move forward. And so I guess that's part of that with my personality. But
I still have the email, your love email.
You do? Oh, we should look at that.
I have it. I printed it and I saved it.
I can find that thanks to Google. At least technology-wise, I can keep things a little easier now rather than being things in a box, you know. But I remember that writing that letter and getting the letter back and just being whoa. And that's, of course, that was also the first time for us, so that was all rolled up into that. And so that was just.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking of it in that way.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, yeah, my first real relationship, the first time that I actually felt that I loved someone.
Yeah.
The best part of that whole thing was that he was my best friend first. We were best friends for like ever. Took me to my prom. Was a complete gentleman. We sat on where the lifeguards sit, and we were just sitting there, and we made jokes the entire night while all of our friends were doing things on the beach, and we were just like like laughing about it and just best friends. And then at a party one time, I drank too much and then I started puking, and he came out of nowhere to come take care of me, and then decided that was the night that we were going to make out after I just vomited. And that was true love right there. Yeah. The vomit kiss. That's how you know someone really loves you. And I remember one night he walked me home and it was cold and he only lived a few blocks from me, and he gave me his jacket, and I go in the house and my mother's like, whose friggin' jacket is that? And I was like, so-and-so's jacket. And she's like, oh God. She had no respect for him because he did everything for me. He was like the best. And I didn't even tell my parents that we were dating until way after we were dating because I didn't want them to ruin it. But that was the first time where he would walk into a room, we'd be at a party, and I can feel my heart flutter.
Yeah.
I guess that was it. That was the one. And there were letters. I threw everything out. Yeah.
See, I'm not
it's your
the
fault.
One.
No, it's your fault that I threw everything out.
Oh, I see. I get.
I don't like clutter.
I didn't want to keep it back.
No clutter.
And then I would say the other one for me, like the best ones were, one of the ones that I can think back to were the ones that kind of challenge you as a person. Like this was a relationship where we were good friends to start with, and then we started dating versus the other way around.
That's always the best.
And it was really cool because like we just enjoyed being around each other, and we were I want to say intellectual with each other too. Like we definitely did not see things the same way, but we respected each other and we're very like open about like how we communicated with each other, which was, I thought, also very interesting. And I think that was one of the ones where, you know, I was writing a lot at that time. And so I want to have some lyrics I wanted to share because I think it encapsulates kind of, for me anyway, in that moment, what was going on in that relationship. This was a song called Cloud Surfer, just lyric wise, and maybe I can get these up on the YouTube channel or something like that. Well, so if anybody wants to listen to them, but I don't know where I'm going to. You don't know where I've been. I thought I saw you coming in. You thought we could begin. Well, I don't know what's happening. You thought I would be wise. I guess I just fell down again after I looked into those eyes. Hey, love, are you looking down from a cloud above, surfing like the sea? Wonder if I'll ever find a wave to carry me. You thought you put the finger on the workings of my mind. Instead, I led you to the tapestry the others could not find. Well, what's to say and what's to do? I'm not so sure when I'm not with you, but I think I thought of you, and now you're always on my mind. There's like, to me, that's like, whoa. A relationship with something inspired that.
How old were you when you wrote that?
Late 20s, maybe. So there's one example there of that. All right, so good things. What were your worst relationships?
Right. This one got me because I really started thinking about... I've had a lot of really bad relationships, and mostly it's because I would at first give everybody a try. Okay. If someone asked me out, I'd be like, all right, let's see where this goes. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then it would be terrible. And then I would, and for different reasons, they would be terrible. But sometimes I would try not to give up on it. Sometimes I'd give up on it right away. But most of the times, the ones that were really bad were the ones where I was a chaser, air quotes, the chaser. And I had a few of those where it started out okay, but then they didn't kind of like me, but then I would just chase it. Mm-hmm. And I knew, like, deep down it wasn't going to go anywhere. Nothing was going to happen. But then I would just, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, they'll change their mind and decide that they love me. And I had a few of those where I just chased people down, and I would sacrifice my dignity so many times. Like, on a Saturday night, I would just drive past their house several times. And if their light was on, I'd be all mad because I'm like, they said they were busy, but they were home. Yeah. And so for a good portion of my life, I was a complete loser because I would just chase. I was always chasing things that, you know, and those were the worst ones because now I look back at that and I would never, I mean, I say this, but I would never, if, like, say you and I parted ways. I don't know if that would ever happen, but, you know, whatever. I couldn't imagine being a chaser at this age.
Doing anything at this age.
It's just difficult. I know. I know. Actually, getting up from the bench that we have in the kitchen was also difficult. I was sitting on the bench and it hurt. But it was, and a chaser is someone who thinks that they're going to be able to change someone's feelings towards them. A chaser is someone who is 2 steps from stalking. I'm being nice about it. Well. Luckily, there was no internet back in the day. My best friend Ruth Ann and I say all the time, thank God there was no internet when we were in high school or even college, because forget it. Oh my God, horrible. So being a chaser in a lot of those relationships was the worst thing ever. And none of them ever panned out, obviously, because I always wound up getting really hurt in the end every single time. So, and actually, a couple of those people that I was the chaser, I actually am not friends with them anymore.
No. Yeah, interesting. Makes sense though.
Well, because they weren't built on anything.
Because you were trying
solid.
to force something that wasn't there to begin with.
Exactly. I was like the guy on the airplane where they show him trying to shove the luggage the wrong way into the. Yes. That's what I was.
That meme.
If there's an image for a chaser, that's what I was.
We'll have to use that to promote this episode.
Sure.
If I'm being fair, I don't think I had a lot of, like, bad relationships, but the ones that I recognized were like, no, these aren't healthy relationships, were the ones where I was looking for my mother's love in that relationship. Right. I think it was all it's that, right? It's like, how can I fix that relationship through this relationship? So almost similar, like trying to make something out of what it wasn't. And those were always, it was like beautiful, fun people, but there was always something a little off about them and off about what I was looking to get out of them, that it's just something that they couldn't give me. And one of the first set of lyrics that I ever won that kind of set, I guess, that whole like thing off of what I was looking for was a song I wrote about that relationship with my mother. And again, let me go into this again, indulge me a bit here, but it was a song I titled I Wish I Knew You Better. And that was, I find myself reaching out, but there's nothing for me to hold, and I'm asking for your help, then realize I'm on my own. Now I'm passing time away, hoping that I'd find my way as I decide the steps I'm taking. But without your love to guide me, I've learned to live in pain. Now you're trying to hold me close to make up all those years you've wasted. Although you're beautiful than most, I only wish I knew you better.
Aw, that's sad.
Yeah, but that was where I was, with that stuff. And it gets me a little like, whoa. Yeah. But like, again, cathartic to be able to put that, encapsulate it into something and put it out there, and then I recognize it.
Right.
That's...
Own it.
Yeah, owning it, recognizing it, and being aware of it. I think so many people are afraid to even go to those places to be introspective about what's happening with them, that it impacts all the relationships they have moving forward. Yeah?
It's really important to do that, because I think everybody today is so afraid of not seeming without a blemish, that if they have these flaws, that someone's going to look at them different, or not love them, or it just makes them look bad, because we live in an Instagram filter world. And
which
honestly,
is not reality.
No. And what I've learned again in my old age is to own those things that make you imperfect, because that's what you have to do. So just recognizing it, owning it, and then deal with it, figure out what to do with it. And I think like we're both really lucky because we're creative people. But I think for people that don't have an outlet of like writing or theater, go talk to someone, go to a therapist and talk it out. I think that is also the best way to manage it as well, because like I said, I watched my mom not, the last couple of years of her life, she definitely held a lot of things in and didn't talk about things, and she was always kind of like that, but it was like worse as she got older. And I think a lot of what made her sick and ill was just holding all of those. It was a very big burden, whereas she would get mad at me because I went back to work and did stuff after my dad passed away, but I didn't do that because I didn't care. I did it because I had to. I had to keep my brain occupied without sitting around dwelling on stuff. This is for Jimmy. Don't dwell on it, because it's been my philosophy the past like year and a half. Don't dwell on it, because I find like when you start doing that, you can't move forward. So a lot of times relationships, people just are bitter about something that happened in it, and then they don't really think, how do I move past this?
All right, so here's the big one, our story. So before we get into the specifics of us, I want to talk a little bit about kind of our mental states prior to meeting, because I think we were both in similar places just mentally, and where we were with just
we both had it. We were at our wits' end.
And I'll share. Here's another one where I'll share with you. And I was in this state of just not thinking I was ever gonna find the person or meet somebody. It was in that time of my life, and I remember riding around the subways, and you know when I don't know if you've ever done this, but you see somebody and you're like, oh, you start to run this little scenario in your brain, like what if that's the person, and imagine if. And then I was also big in this idea of what about all of those like lost relationships, because people are too afraid to talk to each other. And that's where I kind of came up with this idea and these lyrics for this thing, which was a song like If You Knew. And it was kind of that idea of like staring across at somebody like sitting on a subway, and that idea. But it was like, I want to take you away from here. I want to lead you away. I want to travel the world with you forever and a day. I want to feel you next to me. I want to hold your hand. I want to look in your eyes and know you understand. Because if you knew, then you would love me like I love you. And if I knew, then I could love you like I've wanted to. We could ride on a cloud, my love, and whisper to the sun, and we could drift in the sea and be now far from anyone. Let's connect with the stars with our love and land on the moon. Then we could dive from the sky, my love, and try not to land too soon. Because if you knew, then you would love me like I love you. And if I knew, I could love you like I've wanted to. That was that. There's like this unknown thing because people are afraid to talk to each other. And if they only said what they felt, it could be this amazing love story.
Right, and you didn't read the last part where it says fart real loud.
Fart real loud. That's
it doesn't say that.
That's
just
how
kidding.
I end that.
JK.
Yeah.
A big fart. Sorry. I just ruined your whole thing.
No, that was thank you. It's just a very emotional, special moment for me that whatever, that's fine.
Yes. That joke stunk.
Yeah, so
I know.
What about you? Like, where were you mentally before we were?
Oh, I was still the chaser.
Okay.
I was still in chase mode. In fact, there were two people at the time that I was chasing them around like Mr. Magoo, just around and around, not knowing where I was going, what I was doing. And you know what sucks is that there's this whole perception that you have to find the one. There's the one. There's the one. And I think for girls, or women, it's even worse because everything gets Disneyfied. Like, you're going to meet your Prince Charming, and I think that's why I gave everybody a shot, because I was like, this one could be the one, and this one could be the one, and then they were never it. And I could never really identify if it was them or me. Most of the time, it was me. But then, yeah, I was just chasing people around, and I remember there was like a diary entry that I had written, and I just remember going back and reading it. It was just before I met you, and I was so angry. I was just so mad because I was like, why doesn't anybody love me? What is wrong with me? It's like Harry met Sally.
Yeah.
What's the matter with me? I chased them away, and that's how I felt. I felt like Sally. That what is wrong with me? I know I have these little quirky things, but I just didn't understand why I couldn't find someone who genuinely wanted to be with me. Why did I always have to feel like I was chasing someone?
Yeah.
And that was that diary entry was Morosa at her most morose. Because
but I think that's the place we were. Like, I know I was just it's never going to happen.
And you were unexpected. I didn't expect you to show up.
Well, and I got to the point where I was like, all right, fine, like that's not going to be a thing, and so let's talk about that, right?
Yeah,
we were unexpected, I think, for both of us. So, meeting, how did that all come about?
Well, the funny part is, I was dating one of your friends. Well, but it was so casual. It wasn't really even like dating. We're just kind of hanging out. Yeah. And then he was having a party at his house, and he's like, oh, Reese, you got to meet my friend Dave. You're going to love him. He really is a big U2 fan, and you guys are going to get along. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. And then that's what happened. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I remember, so mutual friend, I was hanging out with him, and he would, oh, how things going? Oh, yeah, dating, blah, blah, blah. And I had the other side of that, right, which was interesting. And so, like, I knew, like, it wasn't any real, there wasn't, like, anything real.
It wasn't
there,
a love match.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So that was the first time we met. We were hanging out. Our other mutual friend, George, kind of got us together, right? Like, if I'm being honest, I think the first time we met, there wasn't an instant like, oh yeah, like it was just kind of like, yeah, cool.
There was no love at first. No. Well, I mean, we liked each other. You were cute, right? But it wasn't. I was like, all right.
Yeah, it wasn't It wasn't a thing.
I don't need a third person to chase around, so I'll just stick with the two that don't like me, and I'll just focus on that.
But then I don't remember what came first, and I think it was there was Serendipity.
Yes.
Well, there was the movie, the 8 Mile. So I think that's where we definitely. So that was the same day, wasn't it? Because we went to the movie and then we went to Serendipity after.
Yeah.
So that was the day for me that I was like, oh crap.
That's because I screamed out the window, Dave, when we drove past you in the car.
Yep.
And then you spilled pizza grease.
I got pizza grease on my jacket thing.
And then he tried to like mop it up with the pizza itself and make a joke about it. And I remember thinking, this guy is a weirdo, and I actually like it a lot. Yeah. It was really funny.
Yeah.
And then we went to Serendipity at night with George, who became an instant third wheel and had no idea that was going to happen.
It was really funny. Yeah, neither of us expected it, but it was literally like...
We spent the whole night talking to each other, and George was just sitting there watching it. And that was the best part of that whole thing. Yeah. And George will tell you the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He just sat there and watched it happen.
So it was great. And I think... Yeah, we just gabbed and again. So, yay, George, for knowing you. Yeah. And just allowing us to have that moment, too. Yeah. Because I think, he was a big part in that budding relationship. And then the other thing I remember is, like U2 Day that we had. U2 Day.
So that really was when... Well, U2 Day happened after we went to
Halloween at Belvedere.
Halloween at Belvedere.
Okay, so we need to talk about Halloween at Belvedere because that's going to play a big role,
right?
And it's also a huge part in our story that we'll put on the YouTube channel. But so Halloween at Belvedere was a children's Halloween musical adventure.
Wow!
Yes, there you go. That our friends wrote. Which actually was an amazing show that we performed about 4 years in a row, maybe.
Yeah.
The first year, though,
we just went to go see it as spectators.
And the whole concept was the World Holiday Commission is canceling Halloween, and so now there's all of these out-of-work monsters, so they have to find these jobs. So
and it's at Belvedere Castle in Central Park. So we hike to get to Belvedere Castle. If you've ever had a chance to go there, it is really a hike to get there. So it was me and you and George.
Yep, and Justin.
Yep,
and that was it.
And that was
we were meeting people, and then Justin and George, and this is when, I mean, you were kind of dating Justin at that point.
Well, no, you were just hanging out. I never would. I don't know.
You never call it that?
Or I was chasing him.
Right.
I was
okay. You were chasing.
I was chasing him, and then we go see this play to support our friends, and the whole time the play was really cute. And then the Belvedere Castle, you can actually go into the castle itself. And I wanted to go, but no one else wanted to go. So Dave's like, "I'll go. Of course you will." And then we went all the way to the top. And I remember we were talking.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you know, when like you're talking to someone, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, is this person going to kiss me?
Yeah.
Should we kiss?
Yeah.
Is there kissing?
Yeah.
But then we didn't do it. And then we were like two fools, like, and didn't do anything. And then left.
And this, and that starts our history with this castle.
Right.
Because, I wanted to kiss you so bad. Like, it was definitely because it was after Serendipity.
Yeah.
Like, we knew we definitely like really liked each other, but we knew we also couldn't go down that road at that particular moment in time. But definitely that was like and always I mean, we joked about it afterwards. Like, it was always like, oh, let's go. We can go back up to the castle and have that kiss kind of thing, which plays into our story a little later. So that happened.
So then I think as we were walking out from Central Park, U2 was going to be coming out with Electrical Storm single.
Oh, is that what was going on?
And you had ordered it, and it was going to be mailed to your house. And we made plans on November 2nd to have U2 Day, where you were gonna cook dinner.
I was gonna cook dinner.
We were gonna have a friendship hangout.
Yep. Friendship
in air quotes.
Hangout. I cooked. I made like a.
I
made a massive soup.
You were missing half the ingredients. That was the best part of that day.
Yeah,
so we go. So then
it was a kale and white bean soup with kielbasa. Yeah, is what it was.
If that doesn't scream farts, then I don't know what does. So we have this whole plan to hang out, and then I take a cab because you live downtown Brooklyn, and I was afraid to drive there or take the subway.
Yep.
So I took a cab there, and the cab brought me to the wrong block, and then I called you.
That's right. We had to find you.
Yeah, I called you, and you were on...
Lost in Brooklyn.
Yep. You had the cordless phone, but then you were downstairs because the landlord's laundry was on fire. Something was on fire. And you're like, hold on, this is on fire. I got to call you back. And I'm like, oh my God. And I had one of those cell phones that had like, you had to pull the antenna up. That was fun. Yep. And then I finally get there, and you're like, I'm making this soup. And I'm like, okay, soup. All right. But then you were like, I have to get carrots. So we had to walk to the supermarket and get carrots. And then, it was fun. And then we walked back, and you're like, oh, wait, I forgot to get the kielbasa. So we had to go back and it was like we kept going back and forth to this. We went to the supermarket like 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And then the soup took 5 hours to cook. Yeah. It wasn't like a...
It was a long soup.
Right. And you're like,
I did not manage
want this wine on your empty stomach? I'm like, yes, that mixes for a good time. Yeah. And I got smashed. And then I remember you played some U2, and we were like dancing. There was dancing. And then you went and you bought the carrots, and then you dropped the carrots down the stairs.
I remember that.
That was funny. Yeah. And then it was like a really good night. And then I slept over, and I got in big trouble from my parents. I think I was like 26, and I got punished. Because
Which
I slept
is a
at
whole
a boy's
other
house.
thing I didn't understand.
Yeah,
but
I slept at a boy's house, and I got in trouble. But I knew that was. I was like, this is good. I don't want to screw this up. Yeah. And that's the first time I realized that this was something different than everything else, because I didn't want to screw it up.
Yeah, this was going to be a thing, and that's when I had to talk with Justin and get his blessing. Yeah. And just,
and Justin was like, yeah, sure, take her.
It wasn't that.
And you could have this acre of farm, too, and one of my mules. I'll throw in Reese for free. Please, dear God, take her.
Yes. So, yay me, I got that. And so... Then the next year we were both involved in that musical. So we were dating at this point, involved in that musical. I was playing the werewolf.
Yep.
Who was out of work and decided to become a barber.
Yep. That was fun.
Yeah. And you were stage managing this show.
I was stage managing and doing the costumes. So
Right.
I remember I had to glue your ears and paint your nails.
Yep.
I remember that the most.
Styling. I'm
Yep.
styling.
Yep.
This was great too. George was in that show. We had other, great friends in that show. So it was a really good thing. And this is where my big thing to you was, hey, we should go to the top of the castle and have that kiss we didn't have the chance to have.
Yep.
Meanwhile, we had, at this point, I think we had discussed, this has been a year maybe we've been together.
A little over a year.
Yeah, and this is where we were like, oh yeah, we're going to, get engaged. We're probably going to get married. Like, we were already on that path.
Yeah.
And so I was I was lucky enough to know somebody, we both worked at the same physical therapy office for a little while. And I knew a jeweler. Yep. Who, rest his soul, is not with us anymore, unfortunately.
Made me my beautiful ring.
Made this amazing ring for you. And so we were, we had those talks, but I had already planned out with you. I had said, yeah, he's not going to have it ready for like another couple of months because he's building this thing and getting the diamonds and doing all of that.
I really had no idea. I pride myself on figuring things out right away. And Dave was really good at throwing me off.
So if you'll see it in the video too, if this happens. So what I had planned was, we did the show, and then the whole day our big thing was after the show we got to go up to the top of the castle, and I want to kiss you because this was the first time that I wanted to kiss you, and we wanted to kiss each other, and we're going to go do this thing. And so I get you up to the top of that castle, and we're talking and blah 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 blah, and did we kiss first or did we wait? I can't remember if we had.
I think we got up there and we were kind of laughing about it, and then we did a quick kiss.
Yeah.
And then you.
Yeah.
Got down on one knee.
So I got down on one knee, and I had the ring, and I proposed to you
with the black nail polish.
With the black nail polish and the black eyeliner and I had all this whole thing on. Everyone now, unbeknownst to you, obviously you didn't know that was going to happen.
I didn't know that was going to happen, and
then we stand up, and I go look down. Everybody, all our friends, my parents were in, my dad and my stepmom were there, and everybody had flowers, like bouquets of flowers, and you looked over, and I'm gonna cry right now.
It was like you could hear a pin drop. Everybody was so quiet, and then when I looked over, they were all sitting there looking up with the flowers,
and everybody like, Wah! Well, what was that? Walk us through that. What was going on in your mind there?
That was like, I didn't think that was possible. It was probably the most romantic thing that anybody ever did for me. I felt like that was my Disney princess moment, because I always thought that stuff didn't exist, and that moment was, and I needed that because my dad had passed away, and our big issue was trying to talk about, what's going to happen if we do get married, because I'm not going to have anybody walk me down the aisle. And as much as I was excited we were having this conversation, it was still kind of like a sad thing. And I was like, I don't know if we're, and then, people talk about getting engaged, but they don't, or that it takes forever. And I just didn't expect anything. You were always really good at surprising me. Yeah. That's one thing I appreciate about you, is that you always are able to keep a good surprise from me. So the fact that happened, I was so overwhelmed. I felt loved. Yeah. I felt loved, not just by you, but by all of our friends that were there.
Also, yeah,
it was just everything, and it just to come back full circle to it being at the castle and having that all happen.
Well, with that castle, right? So we did this show 3 years, I guess.
Yeah, 3 years.
So
and then the fourth year we came back.
So the next year, when we went back, we're doing that show, you were pregnant.
I was pregnant
with the girls. And then the following year after that, we did the show again, and the girls were there in their little costumes. And so just our whole relationship with, one, that show, and two, Belvedere Castle. And so a big thank you to our friends, Joe awesome. And George and Howard, who created this event that has just such great meaning in our life that is beautiful.
It was awesome.
So thank you for that.
So
So, and then here we are today.
Right. And then, yeah. And
we're going on 16 years, right? Is that where we're at this year? April will be 16.
2004, so I don't know.
So marriage-wise, anyway,
right.
yeah, 16 years, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, and then we eloped. And I didn't think we were going to elope. And the irony is that we just went to California to go to the, what do you call it?
Coachella Festival.
Coachella.
Yep.
With Justin.
Yep.
And his girlfriend at the time.
Yep. We met up with them there.
And the irony there is that we went to that concert with them, and then we were going to take a little side trip to Vegas, and we're like, hey, if we find a place that we like,
it happens,
right?
Yeah.
And then
it was our mentality to it.
Yep. And then we just found a place that was so awkward and ridiculous and silly, just like us. The woman was a hot mess.
Yep. Got married by Elvis.
Elvis was definitely on some type of
painkillers.
Yeah, he was on definitely painkillers or something, and it was a riot. And you know, we actually had a beautiful moment with the priest, brought us in another room, actually asked us, is this what we really want to do? That was a great conversation.
So that's what's interesting. If you've never eloped.
Right. You should really try it. No.
So that's what happens, right? Before you go in with Elvis to do your thing, the novelty of that,
right.
You actually meet with an actual priest who has you have this private ceremony together where he actually marries you.
Yes.
And what a beautiful moment that we shared.
Yeah. And it was real.
Yeah.
It was, are you here because you really want to be here? And then he had a great conversation with us. And then we left that to go get married by Elvis. And then the priest took on a second job, which was videographer. He's a videographer. That's what they called it in Vegas. They call him a videographer. No, he was the one filming it, which was the best part.
Yeah.
It was him and then Elvis. So if you guys get to watch the video, and when Elvis says, and now it's time for the reception, there were 4-5 people in that room in the reception.
If that many.
Because the priest was filming it, which was hilarious.
We got these crappie, which we still have today, which is the best ring ever.
Yep.
We've got these $5 rings that they had there
outside of the kiosk.
The rings we wear
Vegas.
today.
Yeah.
And I love it. I don't think I would ever get anything else.
Yep,
right? So just to really, watch the video. You'll get a sense of what that was like. That was really cool. It was great that we also, we had some people we were able to call, and it was being live streamed.
It was live streamed.
This was before live stream was a big thing.
Yes.
And so people were able to watch that.
And I remember my friend Tara Feldman was like, I got to sit in my pajamas and watch you get married. It was the best wedding ever.
Yeah.
Although a couple of my friends were a little annoyed that they weren't invited. But it wouldn't be a real elopement if...
Yeah. We came back, and this is where, the video you'll be able to watch. We had parties both in New York and Massachusetts, and we played this video for people. You'll get a chance to see, and I think it was... You know what? I can't think of any better way for us to have gone through that. Peppa's being something.
The cat is, I can hear
she needs some attention.
She is on the bed, just
doing some things.
Crinkling stuff.
Yeah.
Eating plastic. That's what she's doing.
Of course.
I see you.
So, just beautiful. So check that out. Okay, so let's move on.
Along.
We'll let people get into that.
Yes.
The question, so this is the surprise question for each of us. You want to go first?
So I'm going to do I'd like to go first, and I'd like to do rapid fire questions for you. So I don't think you have to answer them.
Shoot. I hate these. Okay.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6.
Oh my goodness.
But 5 rapid fire. You can't, and it's a game that you hate that I play.
I know.
Which is guess what I'm going to ask you.
Great.
Game.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Uh-huh.
All right. Name one thing I always have with me. Good answer. I wish that you could see what Dave's face is doing. What's something that I always have with me? Dave hates this game.
I know
much.
This is the worst game. I don't know what. Everything. You have all of your things with you.
That's a
this
terrible
horrible
answer.
one. I don't know that one.
One song I always listen to all the time.
I hate these.
Ow.
Africa by Weezer.
Good.
Not the Toto one.
Right. But sometimes the Toto one. I won't shut it off. What am I afraid of?
Spiders.
Who's my favorite Jonas brother?
Nick.
Yay! That was good. Let's go back to name one thing that I always have on me. What's always in my pocket? If you put your hands inside my jacket pocket, what's in there?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm disappointed you don't know this question.
I don't know.
CarMax.
Oh.
I have a car CarMax. I have a jacket CarMax.
Actually, so
I'm
gonna disagree because most of the time you're going, "Where's my CarMax?" So it's not something you have with you all the time. Actually,
that's kind of
so that's why I was thrown. I was like, I don't know what you
I always have
something you always use. I would have said CarMax.
Oh, semantics.
No.
I love to throw that word. Things. I love to throw that word around.
Because
all right, last question.
Yes. Anyway.
What am I thinking right now?
That you hate semantics.
I actually have to pee again.
That's probably, actually, that is what you're thinking, that I have to pee.
All right, what's your question?
So my one question for you is, do you have any regrets from past relationships?
Ooh. Yeah, I do. I try not to have regrets because I think that they're a waste of time. I try to see them as learning experiences of things that relationships are trial and error, and you're wading your way through the relationship to figure out people and see if you match. But I would definitely say that there were a few there that I allowed to linger on for a little bit too long. I should have ended it way sooner, and I didn't. And so, yeah, that's the one thing I regret, I think. I try not to, like I said, but just that, yeah.
It's audience questions time.
Okay.
We've got some good questions here. Thanks again to everybody who sent those in. We're going to start with question 1 from Bill, 1 of 2 from Bill. And the first question is, what was the first thing you thought about the other that you loved?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, so for me, just this energy from you. You know, I mentioned perfect before in like one words to like describe our spouse, and everything about what you did was perfect in my eyes, like in terms of like what that was. And so I remember how beautiful, how funny you were, and how talented you were. Like, I feel like I'm a good judge of people's, like, what they're, like, oh yeah, this is going to be somebody who's going to be good at what they do kind of thing. And so that was, for me, one of the things that, or not one, but multiple things. There were so many things, but that was where I was just like, yeah, this is right. And I remember when we first started dating, going to lunch with my good friend Paul Sarkis, who was also living in New York at the time, and we met out for lunch, and I was talking about you, and I said, yeah, I met someone, she's beautiful, funny, talented, all that, and she's a little bit crazy, just like me. Just like me. And
so my answer was willing to be stupid in public with me.
Yes.
Because we did that often.
So
just stupidity in public.
One of the things that I love about just our relationship in general is how much we laugh.
Yep.
We laugh a lot because we're both idiots.
At really stupid things.
But it's so good for my soul, and I hope for yours too. I love that.
Same.
So the second question, the follow-up to this is, what is the most annoying thing your beloved does or doesn't do? So there's a few, but I won't mention them because then you'll get mad at me, which is one of the annoying things. Yes.
But I will say, like, sometimes I do get annoyed when I want to do something and you will not do anything that you don't want to do. That is something that I've learned about you, that you're not very, like, at some point, like, you may have some time to think about it and then you'll be like, okay, fine. And I'm always surprised by those things when that happens. Like when we went to Disney, you were kind of cool about it. I didn't think you were going to be, no offense. But like, I want to go see, I would like you to go see Frozen 2 with us again. And you're just like, I don't want to do that thing. And I'm like, come on, do that thing. And you're like, no. So when I hear that no, I'm like, fine. But then sometimes you soften up and then you'll be like, okay. But
I have a podcast to edit, Marisa.
But exactly, whatever. I was trying not to make too many mistakes. You wouldn't have to edit that much. But that's out the window. But no, like, yeah, you just, sometimes you don't want to do things that you don't want to do, and then sometimes I can't sway you on it, and so that sometimes that's annoying, and that's one is a nice one. I won't say the other ones because I think I've written about them on Facebook, and you're like, take that down.
Excellent.
Yeah.
For me, the most annoying thing. I mean,
can I guess what it is before you say it?
Sure, go ahead.
I don't put the caps on top of things
properly. That's one. Yeah, I didn't think of that one. So, okay. So let's talk about that for a minute. It wasn't where I was going to go, but that is a good one.
Oh, I thought that was going to be
For some unforetold reason that we can't seem to decipher, Marisa, I used your full name.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how serious this is. Can't physically tighten caps on things.
Not ever.
And so, of course, they're typically those things that are necessary to shake before you open them.
Yes.
Unbeknownst to me, which I've learned sometimes to always make sure the cap is actually on before I shake something now. But yes, anything. It doesn't matter what it is. I'll go over and cap's not on. Cap's not on.
Yep.
Like not tightened.
That happened the other day too.
Yep. Cap's not on. Oh, look. Cap's not on. So that's one of those things. And I was going to say the crunching in bed is funny.
Right.
Too. But like at this point, like they're actually like, yeah, there are things and like they're annoying, but they're are also funny at this point because they're the things that annoy us. So you know what I mean?
Dave calls me Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch.
And there was one night where he was sleeping. I was going to say snoring. Whatever. But you were snoring, sleep. Dave can turn around and just go straight to sleep. I don't know how anybody does that in their right mind, but he does that. He turned around, snored. So I get out of bed and I go into the kitchen and I get my pretzels and I bring them back in the room. I was like, he's sleeping. I'll never hear it. And I was sucking on the pretzels so they would be soft. And I was like silently crunching. I was like so proud of myself.
Or so
like,
she thought.
Yeah. I was so proud of myself. I was like, I did it. I did it. Because normally he'll hear me and he'll be like, like he'll sigh or do a thing and get his panties in a bunch. And I was like, meh. Right. And so then the next morning I was all full of myself. Oh, you didn't hear me chewing on the pretzels last night, right?
I'm like, yeah, that's what you think. All night I just like I was at one point I was going to turn around and go, just crunch it already. The sucking on the pretzel is not any better.
It wasn't any better? Sorry.
It wasn't any better, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so I go. I know, I get that.
That's one of the jokes anytime anybody wants to say any better, we have to say Eddie better. So there you go. You're in on that little secret.
Eddie better.
Okay. Question number 2 or 3 at this point comes from Miranda. Was there a defining moment when you knew you were in love with each other?
And I would say it was definitely that night that we had U2 Day.
Yeah, I was going to say that serendipity / U2 Day is what I have written down for sure. Yeah, that was when it's like, okay, we have to make this a thing. A question from Tanya. Yeah. Do you secretly wish a past relationship would have worked out?
Right. And I said absolutely not, because then I wouldn't be here. And I like where I am.
Yeah, I love where I am too, but I will say that when I first moved to New York, I had a secret relation. I'm using air quotes because I was kind of seeing someone back at home still, and this person was seeing someone, but we had like this just mad, crazy love affair, if you want to call it that. That it was that, and then we weren't together, and then we were both not with anybody, and then we just like never got together again. And so like I don't wish that worked out, but it was one of those things that I'm just like, why didn't that ever become a thing where we could have had it become a thing? And maybe part of the fact that it couldn't be a thing was why the thing was so cool to begin with, I guess, you know?
That's what sometimes those relationships just are meant to be that.
Yeah.
Because then if it becomes something else, it is ruined. Yeah. And I kind of like those things. Like, yeah, no, they have moments. Yeah, there wasn't a relationship that I wish I was still having it, but there's one relationship that I had that in high school that I was madly in love with this guy Frank, whose father owned a like one of those halls, and
like a function hall.
It
was like the cough drop.
On Bath Avenue in Brooklyn, and we used to do all of our like high school parties in there, and I was like in love with him, and supposedly he loved me, and he was also a big U2 fan, and he used to drive around like stalking them, following them, and I'm like, I can't believe I found someone who loves U2 like I do. Yeah, weird. But then so his father was connected with the mafia. I don't know if I could talk about the mafia, but I'm gonna
hopefully no one from the mafia is listening to this.
Well, you never know. And so I don't know if anybody in the FBI is listening. That's I worry about that more. Right. Because they're listening on my call. So anyway, edit this part out. So anyway, yeah. But I always wonder what happened to him, because he broke up our our relationship because his father didn't want us to be together anymore because I think...
You were not of good pedigree?
No, because I was Italian. I was perfect. No, that I think like they were having some issues with the mafia and he didn't want his son involved with anything
extraneous,
right? And so then and then they just dipped out. The whole family just went away. I don't even know what happened to him. So I wouldn't want to be in that relationship per se, but I would like to have known what the heck happened to him. But I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm happy where I am now.
Gotcha.
Yep.
I'm with you. Question 4 comes from Joanne, and I think this is a question specific to you.
Yeah.
But everyone knows Dave is a fabulous cook.
He really is.
Thank you very much, Joanne. Yeah. What's the most romantic dinner he has made?
Well, I'd have to say the fart soup.
The fart soup.
On U2 Day. Because that was the first time that anyone actually cooked something from scratch for me. Yeah. And really thought about what they were going to make and what they were going to do. And it was so thought out and planned out. I've really never had that happen before. So I would say that one. But there's been so many other ones after that. Yeah. That I really should be 500 pounds, honestly.
Okay, we have some questions here. We have a 5-part series of questions from Jake.
Yep. Our investigative reporter.
Yes, so Jake on the Street asks, when did you realize you were in love? And when did you realize you wanted to be with him, her forever? And did those timelines match up? Sounds like a 3-part question rolled into one.
I think we should just go straight to, because we kind of answered the other ones a little bit.
I mean,
and I think I think we should just go do our timelines match up to that. And I would say yes. For me.
Definitely. Everything was, honestly, it was one of those things where, again, I know perfection doesn't exist, but everything happened the way it needed to happen for us to be where we needed to be.
Right. And there were times where things were a little dicey with us, like back in the day, and we're still kind of figuring out our marriage and stuff like that. But I think we always came around, and then we were fine. So I think it all matched up.
Another question from Jake is, with the divorce rate at 50%...
He did his research.
He did. We'll have to fact check that.
Yep.
What is your opinion
especially because it came from Jake.
Why that is so high?
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I wrote down 3 things because I think all his questions come after that one, except for C. Question C is pretty funny. But for A and B, because he asked another question.
So let me read A and B because it kind of. So in Jake's opinion, it's mostly a combo of women being more empowered and independent financially, which is good in parentheses, and our current society bred to give up too soon, which is bad.
Right. So I think with both of those things, I think it's one, expectations going into a relationship, because I think you and I knew what our expectations were, like going in, and we talked about it a lot, and it goes back to communication. Yeah. There's a lot of lack of communication with couples going into the relationship, going into a marriage, where they have all these expectations and then they don't discuss them beforehand. Yeah. And honestly, I think I could be wrong, but the way that I feel about stuff today is that people see the word sacrifice as a bad thing.
Right. Compromise is better,
but I think there's some sacrifice in there too, because there's some things that I would have liked to have had going on in my life, but I have to kind of put them on the back burner, especially with children too. A lot of people, I just saw an article where someone just wrote about having kids is the worst thing you can do. Well, that's your opinion. Yeah. I don't know why you wrote an article about it, but honestly, yes, children are a lot of work. Marriage is a lot of work. Yeah. Getting up every day to go to work is a lot of work. But you do these things because you have to stay moving. If you don't do that, that's why people get sad and lethargic and give up on things, you know? And I think a lot of things could be avoided in relationships if people just communicate. We said this in the first podcast too. Yep. Communication was a big thing for us.
I would say too, the other piece of it is that, again, I think there are definitely reasons to get divorced. And my parents, for example, thank God they got divorced. Yes. Like, I can't imagine what that would have been like, and it was a good thing to happen, right?
But had they had different expectations going into that marriage, it would have been different. Maybe they wouldn't have gotten married at all had they really discussed why they were getting married.
Of course. But I think part of it too is sometimes I think maybe people, again, I don't know because I don't think we approach it like this, but I think sometimes people, why it's so high is that I can see situations where people might go in saying like, well, if it doesn't work out, we can just get divorced.
Right.
And so that's already like an option that's on the table.
True.
And I think, one of the things that, I've always said to you, no matter how much we fought or whatever the situation is, that no matter how mad I am or what it is, like never in my mind has divorce been one of the answers to how we solve that problem.
Right. Same.
And so like for me, it's off the table. Or a last resort, right. Which I think, it probably is for other people too, but I think there are probably some other...
Well, I think also people, get married and then the person that they married, they change. They become these different people and they weren't who they were when you first got married.
That's a whole thing too, right? That's just a whole relationship. Like, I don't understand how people aren't... I think we've always been ourselves around each other, which I think... we're not surprised by anything that's happened in our...
No, not anymore, no.
But meaning in what we expect from each other.
Right.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
It's hard to... It's right. I don't know. I think...
we wish everyone great relationships and the opportunity to have that. And it's too bad that it is so high.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. And I think, some of them probably could have been saved, and then probably a good portion of them, they should not be together for whatever the obvious reasons are, because you shouldn't be around anything toxic that doesn't make you feel good or happy.
For sure.
Okay.
Jake's last question, and I'm already getting the wheels turning on this one.
Me too.
When will I be a guest on the podcast?
I'm like, summer 2020, New York edition.
For sure. But I think there could be something here once we get through the next episode. When we start thinking about what we're going to do beyond that, we might have to do something with this Jake man on the street thing. He could send us in some audio from the streets of New York. That could be interesting.
That would be...
I don't know, Jake. We're going to have to talk. You might have just worked yourself into the show.
That would be fantastic, actually.
That's our show, folks. That's episode 2. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. We love you. Please make sure, if you're not already on the email list, we mentioned those gifts that we send out to our email subscribers. Get on the list. You'll find some information about getting situated with that. Please do that. Make sure you're subscribing to the podcast itself on whatever platform that you use to listen to those podcasts. And if you happen to be listening to those on iTunes, which 80% of the people are listening to on iTunes, I can see that information, so thank you. Please leave a review. The reviews are very helpful to getting us found, getting us higher up in the rankings in the podcast store, to get this out to new people. If you're one of those people who does not like to leave reviews, completely get it. Do us a favor and share the podcast with someone you think might like it. We'd appreciate it if you did that. So thank you so much. Reese?
I have to go to the bathroom. So
this is how we end every episode.
Exactly.
It's a mad dash for the bathroom.
So I'm gonna let Dave do the outro, but I'm just gonna tell you guys this has been awesome.
Yeah. Thank you
questions
guys.
Are great. Please keep them coming. And I'm gonna go pee. Bye.
Peace out.
Love you.
So again, friends, remember, life is a group project. Be kind to each other, and we'll leave you today with the love song that I wrote for the beautiful Reese.
As I go pee.
As she goes pee. This is Music Box. Is this what I've become? All that I've been hiding from. Wanted to find my way across the sun into your day. Broken heart, I hope for you. Stolen dreams awaken true. Night she hangs from the rung of the music sets us apart as you dance around my heart. My heart. Oh.
We got the right stuff.